The receiver purred in his hand. He glanced around the bedroom, feeling as if he had just awakened from a long, dreamless sleep. A click, then recorded music. He had been placed on hold. There was something he was trying to remember. Everything seemed to be ready, but... Thank you for waiting. Good afternoon, Pacific Southwest Airlines. May I help you? He told the voice about his reservation. He was sure he had one. Would she? Yes. Confirmed. He thanked her and hung up. Wait, what was the flight number? He must have written it down. Yes, it was probably in his wallet. He bent over the coat on the bed, feeling for the slim leather billfold. There in the breast pocket, he fumbled through business cards, odd papers, credit plates. No. But no matter. He would find out when he got there. Still, there was something. He pulled out the drawer in the nightstand under the phone and started poking around, not even sure of what he was looking for. He found a long, unmarked envelope near the bottom. He took it and held it tightly as he slipped the coat on, then put it into the inside pocket while he felt with his other hand for the keys. He patted his outer pockets, but they were not there. Dennis Etchison. Dennis Etchison.
Who has a name that starts with a D and a last name that ends similarly to this?
Dennis Etchison?
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? What it ends similar?
I keep misreading his name as somebody else's name, but I can't figure out whose.
Oh, I thought what you were saying was like, who has a name like this? Not who literally has a name. Dennis Etchison. I don't know. Oh, I know what you're thinking of. You're thinking of Ennis Detchison.
No.
Denny Itchmeister. I don't know. Have we covered anyone who sounds like Dennis Etchison?
No, I think it's another author, though.
Yeah, Francis Belcherson. Mavis Wencherson. I don't know. I'm looking at the list.
It's not somebody whose name is similar to it. They just have the same two starting letters for their names. That's what's his first name? Eggers.
Dave Eggers?
Yeah.
You're thinking of Dave Eggers?
Yes.
just like popular crime writer Dennis Etchison, Dave Eggers.
No,
a man famous for making the worst friends.
I was thinking about Dave Eggers earlier because my mom asked me about that party that I went to in my senior year.
Egg Davers. No, this is Dennis Etchison, famous world-renowned anthologist and short story writer. But why are we talking about Dennis Etchison, Willow? Who are we? What's going on?
Well, I can't answer the who are we without doing the intro, So,
I'm Phil.
And I'm Willow.
And it's Del Toro time.
It's Del Toro time.
It's Del Toro time. And we are back with the ecstasy of... No, we're back with the Dark Descent. The Dark Descent. Ecstasy of influence. We will get back to one day.
Listen.
Fingers crossed.
We will. Just listen.
Just listen. We're busy. We're busy children. We've got a lot going on.
I'm actually really not busy.
No, you're not. You probably should be, but you're not.
I should be. I am working on that. But that's not important for the content of this podcast.
That is not important for what anyone cares about right now.
Yep.
Ennis Detchison. No, yes, we are back. It's the Dark Descent. We are on the Medusa and the Shield. We are on the 6th to the last story in the Medusa and the Shield. David G. Hartwell's second book within the book, The Dark Descent. These are stories of psychological horror? Like, yeah. Like the monster reflected in the mirror. Like this is definitely about
the monster reflected in the mirror.
Yeah. So according to our boy D.G. Hartwell, Dennis Etchison, who we're covering today, he's an anthologist and a writer. He says occasional short stories, but honestly, like Dennis Etchison wrote a ton of short stories. And he first compiled them in The Dark Country, which won the World Fantasy Award in 1982. He wrote a bunch of not a bunch. He wrote like 5 novels, which people don't consider like his greatest works. But he also wrote some sort of somewhat classic novelizations. He wrote the novelization of The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog. I think Halloween 2 and 3, maybe he wrote the original screenplay for Halloween 4, but it was rejected. So he kind of had his fingers in a lot of like horror pies. I should go for some horror pie.
It's almost spooky season.
I know, it's September 1st when we were recording this. I'm all excited.
Yeah.
But Etchison, he died a few years ago. He's one of those people who was greatly eulogized. Like, everyone loved this guy. Like, apparently he was just the bee's knees. He said he never intended to become a horror writer, but there was just no way he could not become a horror writer because of the way his mind worked. He did a lot of crime, though. In today's story,
he did a lot of crime.
He did a lot of crime stories. He did a lot of crime. Today's story is You Can Go Now. It originally appeared...
I'll head out, I guess.
Yeah, no, what 4 words am I happier to hear than those 4?
Yeah, honestly. Horror story, I think you mean my dream.
Yes, aspirational tale, You Can Go Now. Thanks, I'm out. Yes, if I'm ever at a party or any kind of gathering... If someone would whisper those words gently in my ear, that's like the ultimate ASMR.
You can go now. Thanks. I was planning on leaving 2 minutes ago.
Now it's Minnesota, so of course it takes us an hour to leave. Am I right?
No.
The Minnesota goodbye. We stand at the door for forever.
I don't even bother saying goodbye. I just leave.
I know you do. Duck, duck, gray duck, and whatever.
Yep.
State fair, corn dog on a stick. I don't. This first appeared in the September 1980 edition of Mike Shane, Mystery Magazine. Mike Shane being a fictional detective who first appeared in the 30s. There's like 12 Mike Shane movies. There's like an entire TV series of Mike Shane. Several of the Mike Shane movies were based on pre-existing detective novels that they just like rewrote them to be Mike Shane stories. And then like the creator of Mike Shane started this mystery magazine. It's just a mystery magazine. Like there'll be one Mike Shane story in each edition and then a bunch of like mystery stories from other authors, including Dennis Etchison's You Can Go Now, which first appeared in this magazine.
It is an interesting mystery story.
Yeah, I was a little confused when I saw that this was where it first appeared, because this is it's kind of a hard to quantify tale.
It is a mystery, though.
But like a bass-ackwards mystery,
bass-ackwards mystery?
A bass-ackwards mystery. I'm just quoting my dad here.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't realize it's a mystery at first because you don't know what's going on until
really? I thought it was a mystery because you didn't know what was going on.
I mean, it's not a typical mystery.
No.
It's a mystery in the sense that like what is happening, but like once you've read it, you can then go back and reread it, and you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yow, wow. But it doesn't play its hand until the very end.
No. It's very good, though.
And very weird. Nothing happens in it, really, because you're not really sure at the end, like, well, I don't know. Well, let's just talk about what is this story about?
The story is about a man.
Yeah. We don't know his name, do we?
No, we don't. He is traveling somewhere. He's traveling to, like, a boathouse.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get that until, like, the very, like, last 3/3 of the story. It's a short story, obviously.
Right, but it's divided into, like, chapters.
Yeah, the 4 chapters?
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah. The first chapter is him at, like, the hotel room. He talks to, like, the airplane person, and then he gets in his car and he drives, and it ends with him getting killed in a car crash.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is him on the airplane, And I was like, I'm so glad we didn't read this before getting on the airplane
Right.
home. I would need to read about a plane crash before getting on an airplane.
Because it does end with a plane crash.
It does, yeah. And these first two sections, I was like, is this like a retelling of like Cain, like the curse of Cain? Like he can't. Is that the one who can't? No, that's Prometheus who can't die, right?
Right. Cain is the one who
murdered his brother.
Right, and he travels the world, but he's protected by the mark of Cain.
Yeah. It's like a retelling of Prometheus. Like he keeps like dying over and over again, like as a punishment. And then I got to the third part, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening anymore.
Right, because it doesn't end with him dying. It just ends with him driving to his boat.
Mm-hmm. And he can't find his boat, and then he walks into the lake.
Presumably to drown.
And then it opens back up at the hotel.
Yeah.
Same scene as before. And then he's like, and here's my wife dead on the bed.
Right. He has murdered his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And but you don't even find that out until the very end, because she's just laying on the bed originally. Mm-hmm. And he tells the airport person, my wife isn't coming, she's not feeling well. And then he looks at her and he loves her. Or he reads a poem. Yeah, there's this whole, well, in any case, and then like gradually it reveals that there's blood all over the pillow. Mm-hmm. And then,
but it doesn't like come out and say it.
Right. How does it
it
says
brown webs in her hair.
Yeah, dried brown web had trickled out, just a spot at first, but soon spreading onto the pillow after he had lain her down so gently. He had not meant it. He had not meant anything like it. He did not even remember what he had meant, and that was the truth. He had tried to tell her that practically at the moment it had happened, but then it was already too late, and it was too late now. It would always be too late. And he's holding a poem that he wrote to her. Mm-hmm.
15 years ago?
Yeah, 15 years ago at the beginning of their relationship, about how beautiful she was, and it's titled You Can Go Now. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the story. Like, the whole story is him heading to this houseboat, but then at the end it cuts back to the moment the story begins, and you realize that either the whole story was a projection, like him imagining what would happen, or it's what will, like, you don't know. It does, because he dies multiple times. I was at first like, is he doing that obsessive thing where you like envision your own death over and over again? Yeah.
Anytime I was in a situation that made me like anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like he's fantasizing about this would be a good way to end this.
Especially since during the boat scene, the boat, I believe, is named after his wife.
Right.
And so when he gets to the boat place and it's not there, it sort of feels more like his own like created metaphor for he doesn't have his wife anymore. And
right. And of course,
the only way that he can follow her is to die.
Right. We don't know in the beginning that his wife was in the bedroom with him. He just leaves and it doesn't mention. It's almost like he's blind to her at that moment. Mm-hmm. Or like he's erased her. So in a way, it almost felt like the entire story takes place like in that 1 second of realization of what he's done. And he just sort of imagines this scenario, these multiple scenarios where he dies. Mm-hmm. And then he's back to reality and he has to come to terms with what he, something like that.
Yeah. It's like a never-ending cycle of guilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also like, if we want to go the more supernatural route, like he's stuck in a loop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is that sense of like, will he just keep doing this over and over again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, there's like
when I first read the story, I didn't get the sense that it had cut back to like the time. Like I got the sense that it had just started over again.
I see what you're saying. Right, because in the beginning of the story, when he's trying to get to leave, he can't find anything he needs. Like he keeps searching for his wallet, he keeps looking for the keys. He finds the keys, by the front door on the ground as if they'd been thrown there. And then at the end of the story, he remembers that his wife threw them there.
Yeah.
Presumably during a fight. We don't find out anything. All we really know is that he used to find her beautiful. He doesn't anymore. I think he basically says he doesn't really love her anymore.
It's that sort of like they fell into a pattern, and he says there's like love between him and her.
Right.
But it's not like it used to be. Yeah,
but it's like nothing that gives any hint as to what would have led to a murder.
Yeah. Except for earlier in the story, during the boat scene, he talks about how Shelley wanted him to stop paying for the boat all year.
Right. That's like the one conflict we hear about. We don't even know he's married until that point.
Yeah.
There's like a whole thing where he's going to go look for a guy to help him find the boat, and we find out a little bit about the guy, but that doesn't go anywhere. There's a weird thing where he drives past a barn that has a message on it that says, Hiara Peru Resh.
I want to look up what that means.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't?
I found one reference to it online, and it's a person saying, does anyone know what Hiara Peru Resh means? That's it. Like, that's all I found.
There's an album that has a very similar...
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's not it. This is one of those stories that I had assumed there would be a lot written about.
Yeah.
But there's not. There's a lot of people who review his short story collection. I guess he has more famous short stories.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the ones that tend to get talked about. This one, basically, people are like, I really like this story. It's very enigmatic. I don't know what it's about. It makes me feel weird. You can go now. Like, there's not a whole lot of analysis about this story out there. At least not that I was able to find. And you know me, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll dig into the deepest, darkest, ugliest parts of the internet to find a random high school essay someone wrote about a story just to have something to talk about.
I'm surprised there's not more written about it.
Right, because it's so short, it's so simple, but it's... You really feel like you're inside this guy's mind. Yeah.
Like, this is very good.
Yeah, it's a really good... how long does this thing take to read?
Well, I read it before we started recording, so 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's like a quick 15-minute read. It's just, if you... I'm looking at the original copy of the Mike Shane Mystery Magazine, which I found online.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crammed in the middle. It's on page 75, out of 132. Like, it's just smack in the middle of this magazine. It didn't get a whole lot of attention. I mean, I assume that, I don't know, Etchison sold it for, a couple $100 and went on his merry way. But it's and that he included it in his first collection. But yeah, there's no Twilight Zone episode based on this. There's no, and I think Etchison worked on the revival of the Twilight Zone in the 80s. But there's no Outer Limits episode. This is the story. This is what it is.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad there's no episode of anything based on it because of how internal the story is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it works really well in written format, but it wouldn't work as well on a screen.
Unless you did if you translated this exactly, it would be a very strange short film. If you didn't try to explain anything, if you didn't give anything away, if you just presented it exactly as written with no internal monologue or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just this guy trying to get from point A to point B and dying after every scene, and then it cuts back at the beginning and he's back in the hotel room with his dead wife.
That would be a great indie student film.
Right. But it wouldn't have been a very good episode of Tales from the Dark Side or anything.
No.
But yeah, Dennis Etchison. I mean, It's funny. I'm sitting here saying I can't believe there's not more written about this. I guess you can pick this story apart just for the language if you wanted to.
Mhm.
Like, I could see a good paper being written about his use of
This
language in this.
this is a story I would have written a paper about in one of my classes in college. Like
Yeah.
for specifically for my Keystone course,
Uh-huh.
which was all about breaking apart literature techniques and stuff. Like I would have written
Mhm.
about this.
Yeah, it's almost like we've had a couple of stories like this where it almost seems like it was written to be analyzed,
Yeah,
but not in a bad way.
yeah. Like there's so much here and also so little at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a story that I want to like try and mimic just to see if I can.
Yeah, if you can pare your writing down, this is like an example of like paring writing down to only what is necessary. Like I am writing a story about a guy who murdered his wife and kind of what goes on in his head afterwards, but I am just going to make it the most basic point A to point B version of that story.
And yet it still nearly made me cry at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know why I got so emotional about it.
Yeah, you said before we started recording that it made you emotional.
Yeah, I think it was just there's just something so it just hit me really the poem I think is what hit me really hard. Just like because he didn't even recognize his own writing at first, and then he saw his name and he was like, oh, that's right, I did write this. Like I did love this woman. And then when it reveals she died, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, and it's not usual when it first revealed that she had been killed, I was because it happens in the last like half of a paragraph in like one sentence. It's like in that 2 seconds it took me to read that whole part, I went from my eyes starting to roll because it was such an obvious twist to it just totally working for me.
Yep.
Like he it seemed like I was like, that's what this is just some guy who killed his wife. Oh no, this is really good.
Yeah.
It sort of took me on a really quick journey. Yeah, apparently, and I do intend to read more of his stuff. Apparently he writes a lot. People say that he writes a lot about like sort of the darkness and brutality of human existence, but not from a misanthropic way. It's not the whimper of whipped dogs. It's he has a sympathy for his characters, and there's a sadness about him. And also he says people wrote about how he writes about people who exist like in the strip malls of America, like people who they're not in the big, these aren't in the big city, they're just the so-and-sos you pass on the street, and kind of like the quiet desperation of their lives. Like that's where the horror comes from. Apparently he didn't write many supernatural stories. He's written a few supernatural stories, but his horror doesn't tend to rely on ghosts and goblins.
Yeah. I think that what did hit me so hard about this was just you can tell how sympathetic and like you can tell that he like this author like had sympathy for the character that he was writing.
Yeah.
Just in the way that it's written. And it does a really good job at building up like a feeling, like you have feelings for this guy, and then at the end it reveals he killed his wife, and you're like, I don't know how to feel now.
Well, it's that thing of like he's done something horrible, but you've spent so long in his head, in his within his desperation, that I think that's kind of the trick, is that you have to feel along with him before you find out what he's done.
Yeah.
And maybe his wife was a villain and he saved the world.
I don't think so.
Maybe he was like, she was gonna poison the Gotham water supply, and he saved the day. But he never wrote a sequel to it, so we'll never know.
We'll never know.
the sequel is called You Can Go Now Too. Can I come back in? I forgot my wallet.
Can I come back in? I forgot my keys.
Right. Any other thoughts on this?
No, I mean, it just doesn't. I have a lot of thoughts about it. Like, I love the way that the title of the poem is the last line of the story, and I want to know what the title. I want to know what the title of the poem meant originally.
Mm-hmm.
Because titling a poem about loving someone and their beauty, you can go now, is very interesting.
Right.
And I want to know what changed.
Yeah. But I guess that's not like the point.
Yeah. But it makes me want more. I want to know more. And I think that's good for stories to do.
Right. Leave you wanting more and not unlike the whimper of whipped dogs,
which left me wanting less.
Which left me wanting less of the author in general.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually made me dislike an author that I used to kind of like. Yeah. Not to yuck anybody's yum if they like that author. Oh yeah, 2019 is when Etchison died. 2019.
Damn. We were doing this podcast.
Oh, here. Yeah, he wrote the script to Halloween 4, and it says that he says and actually John Carpenter like asked him to do it, and he says Halloween was, so his idea for Halloween 4 was Halloween was banned in Haddonfield, and I think that the basic idea was that if you tried to suppress something, it would only rear its head more strongly. By the very attempt of trying to erase the memory of Michael Myers, the teenagers were going to ironically bring him back into existence. And the whole like Halloween being banned in Haddonfield thing does end up coming into play in the Halloween series. Like,
yep.
So that idea does, he had something that stuck around, but Mustafa Akkad rejected it, the producer, because he thought it was too cerebral. So yeah.
People are weird about slasher films.
Right.
I love slasher films.
Well, good.
Yeah. Oh, this was a good story. What's our next story?
What is coming up next on the Medusa in the Shield, The Dark Descent 2? What's it called?
Well, it's D.H. Lawrence's The Rocking Horse winner.
The Rocking Horse winner by D.H. Lawrence. I believe this is the only spooky story D.H. Lawrence ever wrote. And it made it into the Dark Descent, D.H. Lawrence. So, old Lawrence of Arabia himself. So we get to, what? You're looking at me weird.
Am I?
What? You gave me this look.
I just haven't heard this term Lawrence of Arabia in a long time.
Yeah, D.H. Lawrence. David Herbert Lawrence. At the time of his death, he had been variously scorned as tasteless, avant-garde, and a pornographer who had only garnered success for erotica.
Cool.
We love him. We love him.
Well, let's learn more about him before we declare that.
Yes. I'm just going to call him Lawrence of Arabia the entire time.
I have to sneeze.
He's not Lawrence of Arabia. Until next time when we read The Rocking Horse winner. Who has the rocking horse and how do they win? I don't know.
Do they win a rocking horse?
Do they win a rocking horse or do they win a race on a rocking horse? Seems difficult, but I guess we'll have
just
to find out.
Just a little
bit. you just keep going, buddy. You just keep going.
Motorized rocking horse.
I'm a winning. Until next time, maybe I'll watch the movie The Rocking Horse Winner, which has a movie poster of a person on a rocking horse that's on fire. So I can't wait. To see what this book is about.
Let's
the 1942 film. Never mind. Until then, check us out on Facebook under It's Del Toro Time. That's it. That's all.
it.
Listen to my Berenstain Bears show if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Willow.
And we'll see you when
it's Del Toro time.